Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fitaurus Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fitaurus. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this Saturday we have Fast Striker, a NEO GEO title finding a new home on the PlayStation. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. Fast Striker is an interesting shoot 'em up. It originally released on the NEO GEO in 2010, developed by the NG dev team. It also saw a release that year on the Dreamcast. Fast forward 8 years and we get this port on the PlayStation 4 and the Vita from East Asia Soft. The game itself was really impressive for the NEO GEO, even given the time that it was developed. So it's a really fun port to have, although the port is relatively bare bones in my opinion. The options don't really give you a whole lot of variability. You can do a little bit with the screen, changing the wallpaper and a little bit of the scaling, adding scan lines, and if that's what you like. Diving into the game itself, we actually boot up the NEO GEO title itself from the NG dev team. Once you start the game, there are 4 modes that you can select between: Novice, Original, Maniac, and Omake. The modes themselves, in addition to having a higher difficulty the further down you go on the screen, actually have different scoring mechanics and different firing modes for your ship. So it's not just a simple matter of difficulty, and that's something to keep in mind, as it can really vary up and make the play really fun. The game itself will always give you this how to play once you select the mode, so if you're unsure of the way that a mode behaves, you can watch the mode to see how it, or rather watch the how to play to see how the game works. For our basic controls, we have a forward fire and a rear fire, and if we tap those, we have a decent spread, but we can hold down the button for, at least in the original mode, to get missiles for our forward firing, and to just get a faster spread for our rear fire. One thing to also note is when you hold down the button, you do move a little bit slower, so it's kind of like a focus fire. We also have a shield strike that we can use, where we can use one of the shields that we've had store up. Those shields are indicated by the blue icons next to our lives in the bottom left, and those will allow us to use be almost like kamikaze, like ram ourselves into the enemies to deal damage. If we don't happen to be using the shield's strike at the time and you hit an enemy, you will lose your shields. So it's kind of like an auto bomb sort of thing where you don't die and you can continue to fight. But most bullets will kill you in one hit, so that's something to be aware of. The momentary invulnerability from the shield strike can prove quite useful against certain weapon patterns as well. The game itself doesn't have any particular difficulty settings other than the mode, and like I said, the modes are not so much about difficulty as so much as they are about changing the way that the gameplay ultimately is set. And the scoring. The scoring is one of the really big thing that's different. We actually have a dynamic rank system for the difficulty in Fast Striker. So the better you do, the higher your rank will go and the harder the game will become. I do like variable difficulty systems like that, but sometimes they don't feel like the scaling is even enough for the certain games. Alright, so we've made it through the first stage and we come up to our boss. So the bosses are really big treats in this game, as they're all these like massive enemies that you have to fight, like a lot of them being like multiple forms. And once again, I want to remind you that this game was developed originally for the NEO GEO. This looks really impressive when you consider the limitations of the hardware that we're talking about here. Each stage also has several secrets and other ways to obtain tech bonuses throughout the course, so you can aim for higher scores. The game itself has 6 stages that you can possibly play through. If you're playing on Novice, there are only 5 stages in that one, so that's something to keep in mind. Alright, and that's basically what we have here with Fast Striker for the PlayStation 4 and the Vita. So of course this is being played on the PlayStation 4, more for convenience than anything else. And if you're interested in more unique shoot 'em ups that came out on like different hardware, this is one that I would recommend checking out. As far as the shoot 'em up design itself, it's really solid. So what do we have here as far as minus flavors and plus flavors? Well, minus flavors, if anything, I just have a few minor complaints about the port itself. The game is like, it's perfect compared to the original. It really plays well, but you're taking a relatively bare bones game and releasing a relatively bare bones port. I feel like they could have done a little bit extra to add additional features to the game other than just a few screen modes. Something like an extras menu with special features would have been great. And also, this is a kind of a complaint that based off of the timing and the system that the game was released for, but there's no way to save your scores. And on a modern console, that seems a little surprising. Yay, we found a secret there. So we get the NG Dev Team's mascot there, and all the icons that we pick up change into those points. But as far as plus flavors are concerned, I really like how every game mode is different. So you've got all these different versions of the same game, different ways to play, basically. And then I really appreciate that East Asia Soft helped bring this title into existence. It's great to see more unknown title like Fast Striker get more recognition on modern consoles. So the boss of the second stage is one that has multiple forms. We defeated the first form, we're on to the second form. And some of these waves are really neat to try and dodge through. Try and take it out. And there you have it. Fast Striker served up for your enjoyment. As I was mentioning, if you're interested in checking out a title that you might not have heard of before, this is definitely one that I could safely say is one that's worth looking up. It's also one that there is a physical version available for it, so if you want to, you can also seek that out. Alright, that should just about wrap things up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for coming out and joining me this week, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.